like the rest of us. I started out in a lot of pain and I spent a lot of time with a neurologist, a couple of years. And by the end of the 2 years, the best thing they could do was put me on pills. I'm like, well, that's just not an option for the rest of my life. So I started looking into different things. I looked into stones, I think was my first option. And it was pretty awesome. I found a petrified wood, and I would literally sleep with it in the crook of my neck where the pain was, and it would let me sleep.
Jean, thank you so much for joining us. You're a little bit of an unusual guest because normally I speak to people about experiences. And in this case, I'm speaking to you about what it is you actually do and how it can help people. So, if you can just briefly explain what the emotion code and the belief code and the body code are and how they are different from other forms of energy healing.
Okay. Well, actually, they were developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and it's about releasing trapped emotions from the body because they literally can ball up and land in different places in our body when we don't process. So when we experience emotions, good emotions, we process them, we feel them all and let them go. That's why they don't get stuck in our body. But the other stuff, we're like, we cram it down and we try to move past it or whatever that is. And then they're like, oh, they just get stuck or they can reverberate. But what I do is release them from the body. I connect to the person subconsciously and we release them as we go. And then it moves up to the body code, which is the same thing. We're still releasing emotions, but we get to very specific body parts. We can find traumas. Um, I mean, literally, you could have something stuck in your big toe. So, I mean, it works in every single bone, every single muscle, your spirit body, your chakras, your meridians. It could be anything. And then in the belief code, it's about finding limiting beliefs, negative programming, faulty core beliefs, faulty core identities. And this is things that have been pushed onto us by, programming, whether it's television, grandparents, church, whatever it is that is not suitable, you have to get each little piece of it and pull the whole thing out, whether, it's unworthy or money issues or relationship issues or you name it. It could be on any kind of level that, we get stuck and have to release it. So, and then it gets to our heart wall. And I think that's the biggest thing to release is your heart wall because I look at it as a filter for your whole body. And you collect these emotions over your lifetime. And there it's like an energetic wall. And it protects you at the time of something happening, but it doesn't go away by itself. So everything that you feel, it's almost like it goes through this and it seems more extreme than it would necessarily be if you didn't have it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the heart wall, I know your heart is actually has more energy and more power than your brain and the rest of your body. So I would assume it would stop you from being able to manifest or, create the life you want if you're blocking yourself.
Yeah, it can. I mean, all of the different things can come into play because I know there was like a scientific study of how powerful the heart is.
Yeah.
So we want it to be perfectly in balance and in alignment and happy. And, it's the body, you don't want it physically and spiritually and energetically. All of
Mhm.
those things have to be in harmony and play in order for us to grow and manifest and all of these wonderful things that we can do. So,
So how is it different to other energy modalities? Because energy healing modalities.
well, it's because it's very specific. Like there's no mass release. There is no, you can work on only one person at a time and one emotion at a time in order to release it. I mean, there's nothing mass about it. It's very specific to each person who does it, because everybody's is going to be different. And, everybody's in a different position to release. Because you'll
Yeah.
see, like when you're doing this for a while, you don't necessarily get the biggest stuff out first. Your body wants to have a feel for it and know how to process it. Not like with you, it was like 6 days processing. And if we did another session, your processing time will go down because your body's like, ooh, now I know what to do. I know how to release this. And, it just gets better at it as you get
Yeah.
rid of more. So,
So what made you want to do this work? Like, how did you come about it?
um,
Well,
and then it moved on to acupuncture, which would last a little bit longer. So I'm like, okay, there's something to this. And then I found Reiki. And okay, this one lasted even longer. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go learn how to do this so I can just help myself. So I learned Reiki 1. I'm like, I just want to learn how to do it for myself. And then after I did one, it started changing my whole life. So I'm like understanding energy and how you can affect things. And, that basically energy is distance irrelevant, because I could help friend of mine in Florida, if she was having stomach issues. She goes, I haven't taken care of business in over a week. And, I'm with her. I'm like, okay, concentrate. We were working on sending Reiki. And I mean, literally before we got off the telephone, she's like, okay, I gotta go. Thank you. So, so I'm like, oh, this is, just seeing the power of the energy was absolutely intriguing. So then I ended up doing Reiki 1, 2, 3. And then after I had that under my belt, I was like, oh, I want more. I want more. I want to know more. And eventually I ran into the books, The Emotion Code. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is even more intent for helping me and my family. I'm a Generation Xer. And, we grew up with enough trauma by ourselves. And, we all process it different. I have multiple siblings, and to see how we all process so differently. And I was able to help myself, but I was able to help them too in their own way. Um, and even like my own family, like the programming, my grandson, I've literally taken negative program off of him from like the YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like it gets on them and it's called offensive, just in the same aspect as like a curse or a entity, this programming that gets put on them, even as little ones, you
yeah,
know, and it's not nice stuff. I'll tell you that much. But I mean, keeping them clean, even from, as a baby to no matter how old, I mean, it makes a huge difference in their lives,
yeah,
freeing them from the stuff we necessarily can't see.
yeah. Yeah, I often say to people if you leave a toxic relationship, just because you've left them doesn't mean they're not hooked into your energy field.
Yeah, you can
You
have
know, and
cording.
that can, yeah, and it can span across the world. It doesn't matter where they are because energy is timeless.
Yeah, and yeah, distance and time doesn't matter. But I mean, and two, that's negative that way. But I've had them even positively, like with my husband. We've been married for 33 years and we've had courtings with each other. And you notice you get into a rut,
Yeah,
where you're like just going with the flow. You're not living and loving each other. And then when you cut that cord, it's almost like, it's like a whole new relationship again. It's like, oh, hi, how are you? I know you, I like you. So it's really fun to get rid of it on that end of it too. So they're
I
not
never
always
thought of it. That's quite clever.
super negative. You think of
Yeah,
recording as negative, and I guess it's negative in its own way, but it's not nefarious, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, how do you discover these trapped emotions? What methods do you use?
Well, connecting to I ask for guidance and assistance and connect to the subconscious of who I'm working with. And it could be, through muscle testing, or I go back and forth between a dowser and muscle testing, due to my belief in the system. And I have had all my hands all operated on, and they get super sore really easy. So I have to go back
Yeah,
and forth, but it's a yes, no. It's through an app that you get access to through the body code, and that helps you explore the whole body, whether it's energetic or physical. It can even find toxins in the body, um, pollution. Like my husband has had like radiation toxins because of where he used to work. So,
mm,
oh no, don't pass that magenta rope. There's radiation on the other side of the rope. So, we've been able to release all kinds of stuff like that.
yeah,
So beautiful. And even pathogens, like we get sicknesses in our body, whether it's funguses, bacterias, you can get rid of it physically and it can still be stuck in your body. So if you feel like, oh, I'm better, but I'm not really 100%, sometimes the energy is still stuck in the body
yeah,
where, it doesn't all release all at the same time.
yeah.
We're
Well,
very intertwined.
for our viewers, Jean did a session with me, and just so I could experience it. And I did have a lot of processing that I went through, but a lot of stuff came up that was unexpected and very in depth and spot on when it came to the emotions and stuff like that that came up. That really blew me away, especially because she told me what the timelines were and so on. And yeah, so for me, I can tell you that it definitely is, it'll bring you to the point of what's actually going on. And what I actually found was that it was so comprehensive because it wasn't just let's uproot this belief, it's what else is attached to all the beliefs as well. And that is, it's like pulling out the weed at the roots. So, how do you handle a client that's skeptical or resistant? And do you?
I do. I've had quite a few, and you usually see like when we first start our session and it picks on like sort of superficial stuff, but it has a tendency to grab enough to make them go, "Oh, oh, okay, yeah." I could trust her. She's getting the good stuff. And then they just sort of open up a little bit, but it really comes down to my belief in the system and my belief in what it can do. And, because we're dealing with the subconscious part of the
Yeah,
body, because it knows everything about you ever did, your whole history, anything, it knows everything. So it's able to, our subconscious connect and really get down to the root of it. And it usually shows you something to where you're like, oh, okay, this is no lie or whatever, you want to call it.
yeah.
But it really
Do
does get
you
down to it.
do you think that skepticism is a good thing for them?
It's not necessary. I mean, I guess there's good and bad in everything and everybody. Um,
Yeah,
it it still comes down to anything. If you don't feel good about it, if the person like you're working with, if they
yeah,
don't make you feel comfortable, and it comes down, you have to trust your body. You have to trust your gut, your intuition on whoever you're working with.
Yeah.
I have found that to be extremely important.
So, can you share a story from somebody who's had a significant transformation?
Mm. Other than myself, I would like to share like one of my husband's, if that's all right.
Yeah.
It's a couple little things, but he's been in emergency services his whole life and had to deal with things that nobody should ever have to deal with. And one specific situation, I don't want to say exactly what it is because I don't want it in anybody else's head,
Yeah.
but he was never able to talk about it without getting upset about it, because it was just so horrific that it's like, how do you get past that? And what happens is it comes to, it's called, it can be like in a recovery interference or an image, but you release all of the emotions that are behind that situation, or it's like a PTSD.
Yeah.
If you get rid of the emotions behind it, and then when it comes back up, the situation doesn't have the same charge against you as it used to. Now he can speak about it, because he gets together with his friends and his firefighter friends, and you know, they can all talk about it. And this now he's free to talk about it without, getting upset or whatever. So that's, one way that it frees you. And like one of the simple ones is that we were cooking dinner one night and he's in the kitchen working. He's like, honey, my back is just killing me. And he's like, can you just have a look real quick? And I'm like, okay, you keep going and I'll go back to my little room here. And I start working on him. And it's just short and sweet when you don't, because I've done a lot of work on him. So it's short and sweet. I can get right to the point. I turn around, I go back into the kitchen. He's like, oh God, thank you so much. It's already better. And I'm like, yay. I mean, and it could be that simple and that quick. Like I've done it with my daughter. She was lifting bags out of her trunk, dirt bags, and pulled her back. She's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go to the doctor. And I'm like, what about your mother? You want me to look? Oh no, I just did it. I know I'm gonna have to go to the doctor. I was like, well, let me have a peek. Okay, go ahead. And then literally within 20 minutes, it was all better. And she's like, well, how about that? That worked. I know it works. So, I mean, those are just some of the little stories where, I mean, even as much as if my children and family have dealt with me, it's like they still forget to call me. I'm like, hello, this is what I'm here for. So,
Yeah, it's magic. So, is it possible for somebody to work with a really deep trauma if they're not maybe used to it? Or because I know with some work that I've done, you don't want to create a crisis within if too much gets exposed. Is something like that possible, or is it better to just uncover, or does the body say, hey, as it comes up, I'll deal with it?
well, what I see is it prepares the body. Because, like, if you've got something really big, which a lot of people do,
Yeah.
it's going to get rid of other stuff around this first, so by the time it's going to let that go, you're going to be good at releasing the emotions.
Yeah.
So, like your first time, if there was something horrific in your past, it's not necessarily going to bring it up. Your body wants you to be able to do this, and your body wants to show you that this works. So, it's going to give you enough to get rid of stuff and make you feel better. But if it's the big one, it doesn't necessarily do it. It'll do it when it knows your body's ready to be able to handle it. That's not always
Yeah.
it's not always a one and done, but it does prepare you for that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So if somebody's carrying a limiting belief, how would they know? I mean, like, how would they know that they need this kind of healing?
Well, it would be something sort of that niggles at you. like the biggest thing for me was to be unworthy. And it was like, is this ever going to stop? Because unworthy was constantly, constantly coming out of my sessions that I would do on myself. And then I was started doing the belief code when that came available. And, I think I ended up doing at least 3 belief sessions on unworthiness on myself because there's so much programming out there. It actually hits from different directions. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
you can find one in this direction. So if I'm going into a session and I'm going to work on unworthiness, it's going to pick a line that is all connected and get rid of that in that session. And, because it could be multiple negative programs, it could be multiple uh, limiting beliefs, and you have to get rid of everything. And then you have to go in and get rid of everything that's holding the system in place. And that would be the body code. And you get rid of everything holding it in place, and then we go back and then we get rid of the belief system itself. And sometimes it's one and sometimes it's split. I mean, nothing's really cut and dry, which is why you're supposed to be certified to do this. So you don't, because when you leave stuff in there, it leaves room for this stuff to just fall back into
yeah,
place. Now, the emotions, they don't come back, but you can, of course, experience more and put more in.
yeah. So does it filter from limiting beliefs to emotion to the body?
It starts with like if you go from the base of it, it's going to be like faulty core beliefs and faulty core identities. And
Okay.
these are like the real powerful stuff, usually picked up before we're 7. And then from
Yeah,
that, they sort of bloom into other things in our system. And that's
yeah,
how, but you work from the top to the bottom, and then you work from the bottom up to get rid of it. Or the,
yeah, yeah. So it would be like because with me you started with a physical problem. So if that would how you would work with it. So you'd say, okay, what's the physical manifestation of it?
yep.
Let's see what emotions are tied to that, what beliefs are tied to that, and then it will work back down to the body as well.
Well, the bonus with me being belief code certified too. So if we go into something and it's attached to a physical ailment, and we get rid of everything behind the physical ailment, it can take us to the belief code. And then something behind there can um, be causing the physical issue, especially if it's something reoccurring or constant.
Yeah, yeah,
But means I'm certified through all 3 that you have access to all 3 through me.
yeah. Do you think anybody would need any other type of therapy if they did this?
Yes, it's not energy work. I mean, because even I have energy healers that I go to because it's not all the same. We all don't work the same, and we all can't necessarily touch the same things. So, is it this one person's going to fix it all? No. I mean, everybody has a chain, a link in the chain in order to get us, feeling our best and our most powerful.
Yeah. So have you had negative people like naysayers? What if people said to you about how it doesn't work or might not work?
Mm, not too. I'm trying to think. If there's very pretty good at proving it. Um, I mean, even like my own one of my siblings has let me work on him a couple of times, and it took me 2 years of talking to him to get me to let him work on him.
That's the question. So why did it take him 2 years?
I, he's not on the same page. Initially, what happened when it came to injury, somebody had another person who did Reiki wanted to help him, but tried to help him without his permission, and it freaked him out. because I mean, it
Yeah.
works. Reiki works.
Mhm.
And it freaked him out. So that's what kind of turned him or scared him away from energy work because of what that person did. And still, I mean, still, I've done a couple works on him and it's still like, oh, no, no, just the medicine's working now, or, you know, credit is still given to the medical system. And I'm like, I don't care. As long as you feel better, that's good with
Yeah.
me. I know what's not there no anymore. So people can be where they just don't like it, don't understand it, so it just scares them.
Yeah, and I think when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm not trying to I'm like, I'm your sister. If you can't trust me, who can you trust on this planet? But
So,
that's
so here's a question. Like for some people, they say you have to remember the incident in order for you to fully heal from it. What do you say to that?
it's not.
Because like,
Remember or
will it
relive.
come up again?
Remember or relive.
Okay.
I mean, there's kind of a little bit of a difference because like in the medical system, they want you to relive what's happened, like in order to release it. On this, kind of what say I bring up a trauma and it was at 11 years old and you're like, I don't remember anything that happened at 11.
Yeah.
And you just you release the traumas or the emotions behind it. Still by the end they're like, I don't remember anything from 11. Well, eventually, like over this processing time, which you get at the end of the session, you'll be like, something usually goes ping. I bet that's what she was talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to hit you as a big thing, because your body considers tripping and falling a trauma.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be big, but it can hit you anytime later where you just, oh, we recognize that and that's when it's released. Poof, it just
Yeah.
goes.
Have you ever had something that you've thought that you've healed and it came back again?
Mm.
Like as a layered,
Well, I think in the beginning, when I first started doing this, it was a matter of finding all associated imbalances and realizing how important it is to find in every part of the system and every layer that you get to. You're in there. Look, is there any more associated imbalances here? Any more associated imbalances? Because that leaves for it not to heal correctly. So I'm constantly digging for those, and that's a big one to make sure you hit everything on.
yeah. I've done a lot of work on emotional healing, but a lot of people haven't. And you've been doing a lot of this work. How do the beliefs that you have affect your physical health?
It's everything. What you believe is everything, because I mean, you can talk yourself into being sick and you can talk yourself into being well. If you're wanting to get out of work, you can have a cold by 9 o'clock, just because you can bring that to manifestation. Well, we're that strong, but we have to constantly feed ourselves the correct and the good, I guess, the good energy,
Yeah,
releasing all the emotional baggage part of this to keep us from getting dragged back down. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. So I'm asking because someone might say to you, "I didn't cause this heart attack with my thoughts. Like it happened to me." What would you say to that, or whatever the thing is?
Well, I mean, you can go so long and have such a buildup because this is what it's like this stuff gets stuck in your aura and it works its way to you over time, these illnesses. And over so much time, eventually it's going to hit. It's going to hit whatever that illness is going to hit. And this is where you get of cleaning the system out. And, because this works on your aura too, but you've got to keep all this stuff cleaned out And sometimes it's too far gone. Does that for this
Yeah.
to fix? This is to hopefully stop because it works on like inherited stuff also.
Hmm.
It's like all the men on my husband's side, they've all died of pancreatic cancer. And you can have miasms and inherited illnesses, inherited emotions that you've got to get rid of to keep these things from coming to manifest again.
Yeah. So you could potentially, by healing your beliefs, prevent a major illness as well. It's not just about healing a physical ailment, it's actually a preventative as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause you have to get it when it's way still away from you,
Yeah.
before it comes to manifest in the body
Yeah.
physically.
Well, I know that a lot of people have healed from stage 4 cancer, have self healed through various means. Would emotion code and the body code and that work for that as well? Or is that something you'd say, maybe it's too far
Oh,
gone?
it'll help get you in a better mindset to where you can. I mean, because I don't do the actual healing, you do. We're preparing the body to
Yeah.
heal itself. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm not the actual healer. I'm just facilitating, moving around the emotions, getting things going, but you're actually doing the work, which is why, it can make you sleepy, it can make you emotional. Um, you'll feel changes in even a lightheartedness in the body when you
Yeah.
do this because you don't even realize what you're carrying until you finally let it go. Then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, so much
Well, I
better.
can tell you, I was so exhausted the other night. I slept like a baby. I was so tired, but I do feel like something has shifted for sure. I feel more grounded. Yeah. Yeah. Grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to hit everybody depending on where they are in their
Yeah.
healing journey. You've done a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it was like picking the little
There's
thing
always more.
out. Well, I mean, I think when we're done healing, we're not here anymore.
Well,
That
exactly. I mean, well, once you've finished healing your first 7 years of life, then it's your ancestors, then it's your past lives. I mean, it's just, and then it's the world.
yeah, we have to keep going though. I mean, this is why I think this time we're making so much progress in
Yeah,
in people healing and raising their vibration and just being able to stay in that positive mindset even when everything else is falling apart around us,
yeah,
because around us isn't what actually matters.
yeah. Well, it's a mirror.
Yeah. So,
So, what has been the most surprising experience that you've had, or enlightening experience that you've had?
I'll tell you a funny one because I do this actually works on animals too. And my dog, I've got a big old pit bull. It's just a mama's baby. Well, I went out of town and I had him watched or a pet sitter the first time because we are all gone. Long story short, he terrorized her, just messing everything up. So the next time I left town, my daughter watched him and it was no better. She's like, Mom, you've got to do something with this dog. He's terrorizing me. He's messing up the house. He's like, he just wants his mom back. So, long story short, I did a session on him and he had this separation and abandonment and all of these things
Wow.
were, in him. And as soon as I released him, the next time she watched him, she's like, whatever you did, it worked perfectly because he was a perfect angel the whole time. So to see it manifest, you know, that way to bring him so much comfort when I'm not physically there with him, and the same thing happened with my horse. She went like 2 months and she just really wouldn't come out of the barn. And she's old. I mean, she's 28. And I'm like, what is going on with Peaches? She won't come out. So I'm just gonna have a little peek at her and see what's going on. and she had a heart wall, and one of the emotions was worthlessness. And
Wow.
she felt that worthlessness because I don't get to ride her anymore. It's all, she's just a lawnmower now. And as soon as I released that, the very next day, she was out again, just walking through the pasture, just doing her thing again. I'm like, thank you. And I think it's a big
That's
deal
amazing.
to bring
Yeah.
them that peace that, they wouldn't necessarily have. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's one message that you could share with everyone about the power of this work that you're doing, what would that be?
A message. I mean, everybody should do it, at least to get rid of your heart wall. Because I always tell my clients, if we all got rid of our heart wall, we wouldn't have any road rage, because you actually process emotions for what they are instead of your whole life lived. You're so much more at peace and ease in your body without carrying all that. So I
Yeah.
would highly recommend it
Yeah.
for everybody.
So if somebody wanted to start their own journey on this kind of work, what would you recommend? What resources or steps could they take?
It's Discover Healing. Um, I keep a link on my website. I think it's in my affiliates because it's a life changer. I mean, and two, like I go to a place here in Knoxville like a couple times a month for when people they don't understand that distance doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in Australia or it doesn't matter where you are, it still works the same. But going out in the public and working with people who like come in the metaphysical store and letting them see that, okay, this works in person, but it works at distance too. Just
Yeah.
helping people start to understand how energy works in that way is a really good thing too. But I'm saying what I was getting to is like in each country, everybody needs this, and they need people there
Yeah.
physically that they can see and touch before they're always, many people are able to open up to working on like Zoom and stuff like that, that they don't understand that this works exactly the same. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Well, there's so much scope for it. I mean, even just working with animals as a as to say that's what I do is amazing. You know,
Yeah.
it actually ties in a lot with. I was trying to think what that program was for Mind Valley, the De Silva method, I think,
This,
because the children. He was talking at one stage about one of the children had fallen and he'd injured himself. And because the children in the class had been studying the De Silva method, immediately they put their hands and pictured their boy healed. And within 10 minutes, blood dried up everything and he was fine because of the power of the energy and the intention behind what they wanted. Yeah.
I mean, kids, yeah, they should all
Yeah.
know. And I think
Yeah.
eventually that will come back into their knowing. I mean, because even like when I had my Reiki bed set up and everything, my grandson would come in here, Reiki me, ya, Reiki me, ya.
But don't you find that children are less blocked because their heart wall isn't obviously so
Yeah,
developed
they're
yet?
ready. That's what I
So
thought it was.
they,
They're the first
yeah,
one to jump up on the table. No questions asked. Reiki me, ya. So,
yeah, yeah. I suppose, and with animals too, because they don't have that heart wall. You know, they're
yeah,
just open.
they are.
So how can the audience connect with you? How can they find out more about the work you do and
Well, I am Coach
contact you?
Jeanne, and I work at Energy Work with Jeannie, and it's JEANNE.com. I have my websites up. I think I have some TikToks up, and it's under the same Energy Work with Jeannie. But I think I have a Facebook too. I get on it every once in a while and post something
I'll
like where
get those
I'm
details.
okay.
I'll get those details from you, and I'll post them below. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
So
thank you so much again.
I
Thank you for
appreciate you
sharing.
having me, and just
I'll keep you updated on my progress.
it'll it still keeps working because you're better at it now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, to me, like you said, there's lots of ways to heal, and all paths at the end of the day lead to Rome. But every bit that you do speeds up the process. It makes it easier, but there's always stuff. There's always stuff to uncover.
There
Yeah,
is, and two, you get to like a stuck point where you're like, where you feel like, okay, I'm not making the progress that I feel like I should be. That's when you want to jump in and get a session and, clear some stuff out of the way. And then you go, 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 and you're growing and you're healing until you get to, okay, I'm stuck again, do it again. And this is what keeps all this energy flowing and going.
yeah, yeah. And for the viewers, my the what we worked on was that I haven't been able to smell for the last 3 years. I did smell a little bit yesterday for about 3 seconds, but like I said, it comes and goes. So I will keep you posted.
Well, hopefully that will come back.
Well, a lot of stuff came up, and maybe it's linked to more stuff, and maybe it's a timing thing, and maybe it's something else. Who knows?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't exactly know how the body works. It can be
But
tricky.
but it is amazing. Anyway, Jeannie, thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was great to connect with you. I hope that it helps a lot of people, and maybe some people want to get hold of you as well. So let's see if they'd like to reach out to you.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, have an awesome day further.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel below. It helps YouTube to send you more content like this, and you'll be the first to know when a new video is released. To watch my most recent uploads, click on the cards above.